No, 10 seconds. No, we're live.
Hey.
You can start.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. This evening we have with us Dr. Meko, a dietitian who's going to be speaking to us today about you are what you eat, and therefore she's going to talk to us about the food that we consume and how it influences our health and our life, and we'll hear from her with the world of experience that she has. Rev, can I ask you that before I introduce her bio, that you open for us in prayer and that we are able to read her bio before we hand over to her.
Thank you. Come, let us pray. Egameni loyisene lonyana lomoya ingcwele yisewe Nkosi yethu nguYesu Kristu, mdali wezulu nomhlaba, wena Nkosi okhoyo, wena Nkosi ophilayo. Sizele Nkosi imibulelo ngale mini yanamhlanje, sibulela Nkosi ukuthandwa nguwe, sibulela Nkosi ukugcinwa nguwe nokulondolozwa nguwe. Xa siphinda ke Nkosi sidibana ngoba ubusuku banamhlanje, we once more, Lord, invite your presence in this place, in this platform. We know that, God, you are always with us and you continue to be our shield and our salvation. So help these your servants today as they would lead us in this program. Thandazela Nkosi abaphulaphula basemakhaya, kube khona Nkosi abakufundayo, sikhule Nkosi ekwazini wena nasekuthandeni wena ngenxa yakho Yesu Kristu Nkosi yethu. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rev. Just briefly, brothers and sisters, Dr. Meko registered as a dietitian or as a student in 2001, and in 2010 obtained a PhD in nutrition and dietetics. She is a lecturer at the University of the Free State in the Faculty of Health Sciences. Yep, she's my colleague. And she's responsible for community nutrition and the community engagement curriculum development and facilitation thereof. Her interests are in health communication, behavior change, and the promotion of food security. So without spending much of her time or our time this evening, let us give over to her so that she's able to speak to us on the topic that she has prepared for us. Keep the comments flowing on our Facebook page. Once she's done with the presentation, I will then go back to facilitating the Q&A session with Dr. Meko. Over to you, Ntsoaki.
Okay. Thank you so very much for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to speak on these church platforms, even though this one is a different one, it being online and I'm not really a technological person, so a bit nervous, but let's see where this takes us. So as explained, I'm a dietitian, and a lot of the times people don't really understand what the word dietitian means, but most often we are associated with weight. So whenever somebody sees a dietitian, the first question we are asked is, I need to lose weight. And I think just to start off, I just need to explain that that's not all we do as dietitians. We are involved in a number of disease processes. And a lot of people are not aware that things like what we call low blood, for example, that a lot of people suffer with, which is actually anemia. Things like arthritis, HIV and AIDS, TB, cancer, heart disease, that we actually have a contribution as dietitians in those illnesses. But coming back to today's topic, you are what you eat. This is interestingly a topic that was used long ago to try and promote healthy eating. And I want to paint a picture first as I begin. So when I was growing up, I would watch my mom and her friends go on diets. And those of you who have moms that are, you're familiar with this, where it's one diet today, it's another diet tomorrow. This one works and this one doesn't work. And interestingly, at the time, say when I was studying my undergrad, somewhere in the early 2000s, the rate of diabetes and high cholesterol and cancers in Black communities was very low. But now what we're seeing is, because of those eating patterns, because of those what we call yo-yo dieting, and a lot of other factors, we are seeing a very large increase in what we call lifestyle diseases. And what is sad for South Africa is we also have a problem with undernutrition. So undernutrition means your body is not getting enough of the nutrients it needs. And the undernutrition, for the most part, is visible. You can see it when somebody loses their weight, and you start seeing their bones. And that tells you that they're losing muscle. But another form of undernutrition, which we are particularly worried about, is what we call hidden hunger. And hidden hunger means you might look healthy. You might be overweight, you might be normal weight, but on the inside of your body, there's a need for nutrients. There's a shortage of nutrients. And so you look healthy, but in actual fact, you are also starving. And that is actually a result of the fact that people eat a very starch-based diet. So a lot of starch, no fruits, no vegetables, so meaning no vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and so forth. So I just want to, as a way to show you the impact of nutrition, I'm going to start off by clearing some misconceptions that I am, or a lot of us as dietitians are confronted with. The first one is weight loss. I think I can't talk without saying anything about weight loss. As South Africans, particularly Black South African women, we are the most overweight in the world. I think us and the USA are sort of competing in terms of the number of overweight women in the world in different countries. Also, what is also concerning is the fact that we are overweight not because of genetics, but we are overweight because of the environment and mostly the foods that we choose to eat. And we choose the foods to eat, unfortunately, most of the time what we see is based on convenience. Sometimes it's based on the fact that we are tired, we don't have time to cook. But what's also interesting is food is now sort of a sign of affluence in a lot of our Black communities. And I'll come back to that later. The second thing is the issue of detoxing. So this is one of the things that every time when you go on Google, there's always a detox program that people are encouraged to participate in. And what we try and explain as dietitians is that your body is able to detox itself. It's made in such a way that it will get rid of toxins on its own. Different organs in your body have that role of getting rid of those toxins. And the unfortunate thing with these detox diets is they tell you to leave out certain foods, which in itself is a problem. Secondly, they use things like, having to, they have a laxative effect. So a person, has this constant passage, which is actually not normal. You should be consistently every day going for number 2 to the bathroom. It shouldn't just happen when you're detoxing. And then the last thing that people also experience with detoxing is dehydration, because you lose a lot of water through these programs. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is that weight loss is not as easy as people want it to be. The second thing is that detoxing is actually not the healthy thing to do. The third aspect I want to touch on is that the next option that people go to is supplements. And this is a multi-million rand dollar business internationally. And if you also go on Google, you'll find supplements. They are given different names. It's herbal supplements, it's vitamin and mineral supplements, and so forth. the sad thing is nobody regulates, especially in our African context. Nobody goes and looks that what is said to be in that supplement is actually in that supplement. So some of the studies that we've done found that some of the supplements being marketed, when you read the label and when you go and analyze it in the lab, the contents do not match with what is actually on the label. What people don't realize, again, is that in actual fact, nutrients are absorbed easier and quicker and better from food rather than from using supplements. You can think there's a lot of programs that sell pills and herbal teas and all sorts of things that claim to cure cancer, claim to cure arthritis, they claim to promote weight loss. And unfortunately, those claims are not proven. They have not been tested anywhere. And people are spending money on these supplements, and it's a lot of money that people are spending money on supplements that are really actually not well researched and not well investigated. The last thing I want to touch on, which for me is a passion, is that starches are not the enemy. The first thing that people do when they go on a healthy lifestyle is they cut out all the starch, and particularly cut out pap, maize porridge. And this is a myth that is really causing us as dietitians a lot of headaches. The problem with starches is not the starch itself, but the type of starch you're eating. In other words, if it's white, if it's refined, you need to go easy on it. And then the second problem is the amount of starches that we are eating. If I give you an example, if you are somebody that is living healthy, that is not overweight, the amount of pap that you should be eating as a female should be about 1.5 serving spoons. And if you think of the amount of pap or rice or whatever other starch that we dish up, it's usually more than that. We've tested it, we've measured it. People eat 3 times the amount of starch that they should be eating. So the other thing is we promote whole grains. So as long as it's brown, so your brown cereals, one starch that cereal that we promote very heavily is oats porridge, because of its benefits in a lot of things. We also promote things like brown rice, which I know a lot of people don't like. Our traditional foods like your maize mealie rice that a lot of people have now stopped eating, and semp, they are high in fiber. Those are the types of starches that we say people should continue eating because they are high in fiber, and the fiber has benefits, which I will mention a little bit in a second. So those are some of the misconceptions that I just wanted to clear out. Now, the question then becomes now, okay, so I've heard all of this. I've been on Google, I've tried diets and they've worked for me. A lot of the time, the diets work because you are reducing the amounts of foods that your body is used to. And so they will cause weight loss. But the type of weight loss that it causes is most often water is lost, and then the next thing is muscle. So you don't necessarily lose fat. And then the other problem is whenever you choose a program, whichever program it is, it should not be excluding food groups. Any program that says you shouldn't eat certain vegetables or fruit or certain types of starches, except for the refined starches like your white breads, your white bread rolls, your white rices. Those diets are not healthy. What we want is actually for you to have a balanced diet and eat a variety of food. So what do we do? How do we eat healthy? So this is the next 15 minutes. So the first thing is sugar. What's the amount of sugar that you are using? It's often funny when people say, I'm not going to eat starch, I'm going to stop eating starch, but then they're still drinking their physical drinks. And if you look at your physical drink, I think in a 500 milliliter bottle of a physical drink, you get about 4 teaspoons of sugar. And then the other thing people like to do is to say, okay, I'm going for 100% fruit juice. And the sad fact of the matter is that the 100% fruit juice has even more sugar than the normal sugary drinks that we have. So the point that I'm trying to make is look at the amount of sugar that you're drinking. In a day, a person should be using 2 teaspoons of sugar. So if you take your cold drinks, if you take the chocolates, if you take the sweets, if you take the cookies, and you take all of that into consideration, the tea and coffee that you drink every day, how much sugar are you adding every time you drink tea and coffee? Add that up. If it's more than 2 teaspoons, then you know you have a problem. The second thing that you need to do is to watch out for your fats. There's a trend in the township now with, I know it's got different names all over, with our fast foods that we get on the street corners, in the small caravans, your skambani, your fat cook, your chips and Russian. These are things that are now trending in the township. And unfortunately, there's 2 problems there. They have a lot of fat. So if you, for example, we took a fat cook and squeezed out the amount of oil, and we found that there was about 10 teaspoons of oil that you can get in one fat cook, medium sized. So you can imagine how much fat you are actually eating on a day-to-day basis. And then the second problem with the fat is that a lot of these vendors don't change their oils regularly. So you end up eating fat that is similar to the fat we get from meat, which is cholesterol, that actually leads to heart failure later in life. So watch the amount of fat that you're using. Interestingly, there's another trend now to add margarine to everything, to starches, to fruit, to vegetables, to meat, and that is also making you eat too much fat. And no matter what type of fat it is, even if it's olive oil, you still need to be careful about the amount of fat that you are eating. Okay. One thing I like to say is that instead of buying these supplements, buying these products that help you to be healthy and prevent disease and all that, use that money and rather buy fruits and vegetables and milk products. Those are the foods that will help sustain a healthy lifestyle. If you are somebody that cannot cook vegetables on a day-to-day basis, eating them raw, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually the best. So a lot of excuses I get from, and it's valid excuses, we're tired, we don't have time to cook, but try and make time for yourself, spend and invest in your own health, and cook those large pots of vegetables and eat it right throughout the week. Adding something like tomato into your stews, that's also a vegetable. So clever ways of incorporating fruits and vegetables into your meals, that will also ensure that you live a healthier life. The next thing is one of the controversial thing, and I'm almost done, is go meatless. I often say to my patients, you need to choose 2 days in a week where you don't eat meat. So, because meat, as I explained earlier, has a lot of fat in it, especially red meat. Everyone knows that. But even though we know it, we still don't want to let go of it. So instead of going and eating meat, rather switch it up once or twice a week and buy beans. Things like baked beans is also something that you can try if you're not adventurous. But I think one thing that you can Google that I will really say to you and encourage you to Google is to go and look at different ways that you can make, cook and prepare beans. Beans are sort of a superfood in terms of they help you control your weight. If you are diabetic, they help to control your diabetes. If you have hypertension, they help with your hypertension. If you have high cholesterol, they help to to lower your cholesterol levels. And they also keep you regular. So you won't have to detox if you are eating beans on a regular basis. The last thing I want to say, and this is the least favorite topic, you know, when you drive around the township on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, the car washes are full, and and people are not there for food, for washing their cars, but they're there to drink and also to eat a lot of meat. So I've already touched on the meat and the fact that the high amount of meat that we are eating has resulted in so many people being diagnosed with high cholesterol. So even if you're thin, you've got this ideal body weight. You know, I've seen patients that are much, you know, so thin that you wouldn't expect them to have problems, and they've tested and their cholesterol has been high. And if you look at it, it's really mainly the fact that we use a lot of fat and a lot of meat in our diets. The last big thing is alcohol, and we can't run away from it. I've heard all sorts of stories about alcohol. This alcohol is better than this one. At the end of the day, it's alcohol and it's damaging. We as a country, again, are, I think, very high up in the ranks in terms of alcohol consumption. And the biggest problem with alcohol consumption is that people tend to binge drink. So they don't drink throughout the week or the month, only the week, and then on Saturday and Sunday they make up for the entire week, and that does a lot of damage. And for a young person, if you are under 45, you're healthy, there's nothing wrong with you, it doesn't matter. And it's very difficult for me to convince you to let go of the alcohol. But what I can tell you is that as you grow older, this means that you're going to spend more time in hospital, more time in clinics, because of the damage that alcohol has on the body. I mean, it causes cancer, it causes liver disease, which is actually not a funny thing. It worsens diabetes and hypertension. And if you have heart failure or a history of heart disease in your family, it worsens it. It makes it worse. So I know it's a hot topic. It doesn't matter which type of alcohol. Rather try not to drink, or drink as little as you can. I know I might not be making a dent with this, but that's unfortunately the truth. But all in all, for a healthy way of living, we can't just talk about diet on its own. I see healthy living as a triangle. There's food, there's exercise, and then there's mental health. And mental health for me is the driver for the higher levels of alcoholism, for one, and it's a driver for the high levels of sugar intake, because people are not aware that those are the things that make you feel better when you are feeling down. So that's my story. The three, if anything, just remember the three things: diet, exercise, mental health. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Ntsoaki. We've got them, the three essential things, right? It's about a holistic lifestyle kind of things. Just quickly, a few things personally. You mentioned eating a spoon and a half, a serving spoon and a half, yeah, pap, ne? And I'm sitting there going, I'm one of those people who eat 3 times that in one meal, not in a day, right? And I'm like, okay, lady, you need to regulate your eating seriously now. You can't be having 3 times the recommended serving of a heavy starch. And what occurred to me is we generally would have this at supper, you know, and I know we metabolize a bit slower later. So we carrying these heavy foods that we're not even giving space to metabolize or assimilate or whatever, and we expect that our weight to reflect something different. So that popped at me. Just some comments that I've come across on Facebook. Chapelo Diloka says, Dr. Meko, your passion for the CM in our church is amazing. And I'd like to just resonate with that, because the first time I met you was at a Wesley Guild event, and we were doing a health session, and we were doing exercise, BP, BMI, and you were there for the dietetics part. So I would like to concur with Tapelo.
Yeah.
When we call Dr Ntsoaki, she is there to talk to us about our eating. I think I should go first with some comments on Facebook, and then I'll get into the questions for you to respond to. So Nabila Ngwali says, I knew white starch is the culprit, right? So you've reached someone with that one. And then Amanda Sosha, it is stated as a comment, but I'm not even sure if it's a question. So feel free to answer if you find it. She says, banting excludes a lot of veggies. Now you spoke about diet plans that exclude a lot of foods and how we should be wary about that. Would you like to say something about banting?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one of the hot topics. And unfortunately, what we find is people then develop these deficiencies, for one, in micronutrients. And that has an impact also, remember, on your immune system, not just your health in terms of healthy eating, but on the immune system itself. So if you're not getting enough of those, and unfortunately, there's certain foods that carry more of certain vitamins and minerals than others. So excluding them, you know, poses a problem. And one thing that we find, and I'm now talking based on, you know, conversations with colleagues, is that what they found with people that have been on banting is some of them develop kidney failure, like acute kidney failure, because of the protein overload, because the body is not able to carry that much protein. Another thing I have to warn about is that a lot of research on weight loss is not done on the Black South African community. So we're not sure about the long-term effects of these diets. What we are sure of is that the traditional diet that was eaten by our forefathers and grandparents was actually better, because they passed away due to, you know, infections and so forth, because there was no medication. But those that are sticking to the traditional way of eating, I can tell you of 80-year-olds, 79, whatever year olds, that are healthy as a fiddle, and they have no hypertension, no diabetes, nothing, because they've stuck to the African way of eating.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. So let's hit our first question. DK, her question is, should we diet according to our blood types, or do diets differ per person?
So that's another type of diet that gives me headaches because it's a diet. It's not really, in terms of, if we talk about research, because that's what we talk from, it is not proven that choosing foods according to blood groups is what causes weight loss. And there's people that are in a certain blood group and eating a certain food that is supposedly should be excluded, but nothing happens to them, you know? So those are the type of diets that we discourage. There's really very little to confirm or to promote the blood group diet. And I really want, if everybody can just help me, please tell people to just please stop, you know, go see a dietitian and rather than do these funky diets. Yeah.
All right. Our next question says, what then would be the best way to lose excess weight, especially around your waist?
So one of the things that people think happens is, and the fitness people will tell you this, that you can't target your waist only when you are trying to lose weight. It has to be a whole body type of intervention. The other thing is, the sad news is, it takes a while to lose weight, because it is not something that you just do. It is a lifestyle change. You literally, if you're going to go for, there's different diets that are proven to work, like a low carbohydrate, a high protein that is prescribed by a dietitian, a low fat diet, a low energy diet. whatever diet you choose or whichever way of eating you choose, you need to stick to it. So one of the things that I say to people is the easiest thing to do is, like I said, the fat and the sugar, and then reduce your portion sizes. Eat half. Start eating on a small plate. Start eating in a small bowl. Eat what everybody else is eating. Don't change anything except for adding margarine and oil to everything. But eat small portions. If you want to go for takeaways and you are list for takeaways, buy the kiddies size. So a lot of these places have kiddie size, and you will see it. For some people it takes a month. For some of my patients it takes 3 months to actually see the difference. And then the last thing is get off the scale. Do not weigh yourself, right? So focus on it being a lifestyle change. Reduce your portion sizes. Take away the fat in the preparation. Choose a method of exercise that works for you. It can be 10 minutes of exercise, and then stick to it. I promise you, it sounds simple, but it works. Yeah.
All right. So what I'm also hearing is bringing about a question for me. We normally do intermittent dieting. We don't think of dieting as a lifestyle change, right? So we intermittently take a period and say,
yes,
for this month, I'm eating better. And then we see the change that we had expected. And then we go right back to where we used to be. And I think what I'm hearing you saying is this becomes a lifestyle change. It is not temporary. Your life and the way of living with the trio that you spoke to changes. And it's not an intermittent thing. What is the danger of intermittent diet?
The intermittent dieting, the danger of it is when you stop, you pick up the weight, because a lot of the times you go back to your original way of eating. And then the body sets a particular place where you will not lose beyond that. So every time you stop, the body picks up the weight and sets what we call a set point, and it stops there. So the next time, you try and lose weight, you see, but I'm doing everything that I did all these other times, but I'm not going beyond this place. And it's because now your body is protecting itself from the state of starvation that might happen. And so it's keeping its energy reserves. And so it becomes difficult to go over that plateau again. So, and the other thing people need to understand is that it's a commitment. It is a difficult commitment. I mean, as dietitians, we struggle as well. It's a difficult commitment, but you have to, be in it for life. And there's people that have managed and have found what works for them. And it's interesting to see, it's actually sometimes it's the simplest things, smallest things. So don't overthink it. If you're not sure, and again, I say this, go and see a dietitian. Yeah.
All right. Now, your statement could be very contentious to a lot of people watching because of the day-to-day access to medical facilities conversation. So when you say somebody, when in doubt, visit a practitioner, can you speak access? Can we just hear you speak access?
Yeah. That's a difficult thing. We have a problem in the country in terms of the number of dietitians that are employed, particularly in the public sector, where we actually need dietitians. But most clinics have dietitians. And you are able to walk into a clinic and ask for a dietitian. A lot of the times, I'm not sure, it differs per facility. You don't need a referral. So, I mean, even in hospitals, sometimes I've heard dietitians say they have walk-in patients. So what we need to do is to start asking, where do I find a dietitian? And once you find the dietitian, listen to them. In terms of private practice, there's a lot of dietitians in private practice. Medical aids do pay. I know some medical aids don't pay as much as others, but I think it's a good investment to just once a year use that fund, those funds that are allocated for a dietitian, to go and see one. Make it even just a yearly appointment if you are struggling in terms of medical aid fund. But it's true, access is a problem, but I think the biggest thing is lack of knowledge that all the clinics, most of the clinics have a dietitian on staff. Yeah.
Okay, so brothers and sisters, you heard, right? Health-seeking behaviors are being encouraged. Seek help. Seek aid in terms of your help. These services are available, though sparse and scarce. They are available at our public institutions and those of us with medical aid. Let us try to reduce the weight on the public facilities, I'm guessing. The last question that we have, and I'm not sure if Koko is being rhetorical here, but hey, so he has a few exclamations. 1 fat cook, 10 teaspoons, 40 spoons of sugar. Right? But his question is, so would it be advisable to leave these organic herbal supplements that he is currently on?
Yeah, the worry about those herbal organic supplements is we're not sure of their effect on the body. And some of them, if taken in certain amounts, have toxicity. They cause, they have a lot of toxicity, which then affects your organs. And I know a lot of medical practitioners, that's one of their frustrations, that they're seeing patients that are on some form of herbal treatment coming in with complications due to these treatments. So I would rather advise that, see a doctor, somebody that's actually knowledgeable about those supplements. There are supplements that are tested, that are, approved. If all else fails, check with the American, authorities, because they have that process where they check their drugs. We don't. But I think for safety's sake, leave the concoctions, eat your fruit, eat your vegetables, drink your milk, drink your water, you'll be fine.
Right. We've got more questions that just came in and some comments. So the first comment is from Pilato Maniza. And Pilato says, the biggest problem is that the nutrition space is not regulated. And HCPs send conflicting messages. People tend to also look for a quick fix. So that's a comment from Pilato. And then we've got another comment that says, 2 things I really don't like: oil and raw salt. I really can't stand it. I don't know if you have a comment on those. And then there is a question here that says, what about smoothies? Are they healthy?
Okay. Oh, I'm glad that question came up. But I want to start with the oil and the salt. And I want to say, in terms of salt, please remember that we're not just talking about white salt that you add to food, especially if you have hypertension or there's a family history of hypertension. Soup powders, stock cubes, and other seasonings, all the spices that we use. I know the salt content has been brought down because of regulations, but still, please be careful with the amount of salt that you use. I was thinking of smoothies this morning, and I thought, should I include it or not? People tend to go to the smoothie route thinking it's healthy. It depends on the content of the smoothie. A lot of times people add too much, in terms of fruit, for example, because of the sugar content of different fruits. We normally say up to 3 fruit per day. So if you think how many fruit go into a smoothie, that's number one. So look at the amount of fruit that you put in there. What other powders do you put in your smoothie? What is the content, the protein content, the fat content, the energy content of that? If you're putting yogurt, is it low-fat yogurt? Is it unflavored, no fat? So look at the ingredients that you are adding, because sometimes some people do overdo it. They add too much to the smoothie, and then the smoothie loses its health effects.
Okay. Speaking about adding milk and having yogurt and all of that, here's a question by Lisa. I'm too scared to pronounce your surname incorrectly, so I'm going to leave it at Lisa. Lisa's question is, can you explain the difference between full cream milk and low-fat milk, and which one is best recommended?
Sure. That's where the nutrition becomes interesting again, because in the past we would definitely say low fat. but it depends on how much milk you drink per day. The difference is the amount of fat that you get in full cream milk is about 3 grams per 100 grams. In low fat milk, it's about 2.5, 2 to 2.5. And then in the no fat, it's even lower. It's about less than 1 gram per 100 gram. So in actual fact, if you're not somebody that's drinking 2 liters of milk per day, you can go and still continue with full cream milk. But if you are worried about weight and cholesterol, and not even cholesterol, I mean, if you're worried about just your general weight, I guess it doesn't do any harm to use the low fat or even the skimmed milk. But as I said, I mean, the differences in terms of fat content is really very small. Yeah. The only thing I want to also say is people should then not use the creamers, so the creamer is not dairy, it's actually just fat. And that's another thing that people tend to misuse. Yeah.
Okay, this was very interesting because I tend to take a box of milk and down it. So this is very informative for me. And then we've got 3 questions from Soso. Soso, I'm not going to call the brand out when I read, just for the sake of brand respect. Dr. Meko, is these organic things, tea, and the shakes eating plan recommended? Do you recommend an eating plan with shakes and teas?
We know that something like green tea helps with weight loss, helps with cardiovascular health. So as long as it's green tea, and the purest form of green tea is actually the most beneficial, so that's fine. The thing is, you don't have to go buy the most expensive green tea from somebody that sells it somewhere. You can get green tea in our regular supermarkets and you'll still have the same effect. So green tea is still recommended. It's very funny when I see these packages and you see green tea sold for like 150 and you think, but if you go to any of our stores, it's much cheaper than that. And you get those, pure green teas that everybody actually doesn't like to drink because they taste very funny. So I'd rather say, good, number one. Shakes, in terms of shakes, again, I think one of the things is to consult somebody that knows, look at the ingredients and look at particularly the amount of energy that is in those shakes. A lot of the shakes, if they are meant for weight loss, yes, the energy is lower. Some of the shakes are protein shakes that supposedly will help people to build muscle and so forth. But in terms of the actual content, again, like I said, we are not sure. I know some reputable brands are proven to actually contain those the ingredients that they do. But for us, it's like, look at the total amount of energy that you are eating in a day. So there's nothing actually wrong with using shakes. And then again, I go back to saying there are cheaper shakes on the market that also have the same effect in terms of weight loss. You really don't have to go buy 1,000 rands worth of shakes. Just look around in the stores. There's really products out there that are really good and that work well.
Cool. Before we go to Soso's second question, can I just acknowledge Mama Greta Makwenkwe's comment that says, thank you for the tip on the green tea. So she's caught it. What food groups do you recommend for someone trying to lower their cholesterol?
Yes, beans. This, if I can give you any, this is like $100 million advice, beans. So, butter beans, sugar beans, chickpeas, red, whatever, black beans, they actually are proven to lower cholesterol because of the fiber content. So that's the one food group that is underestimated in terms of cholesterol. So that's like long and short. And then the second food I would recommend, again, like I said, is oats, because of the type of fiber that it has. It also helps to lower your cholesterol.
Okay, so Nabile's last question. Is it true what they say about seafood and the high libido? She's shocked, Soso.
Whoa, no, I have no idea. It's interesting how the libido always comes in with nutrition. I have no idea. I'll have to go and check that for you. So I can't answer that.
All righty. A few last comments. Senzo Gidi says, if only I could have someone pinch me every time I eat cake. Brothers and sisters, if I missed your comment or your question, my apology. But as far as my view is on this side, and the fact that it is almost 7 o'clock, and remember with my presentation, I spoke about time. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ntsoaki for her amazing presentation, for coming through for the youth unit as she always does. And man, thank you very much for coming through, and thank you for the wisdom. I mean, I had a few stuff where you said we overstarch, and then later you were like, cut off starch altogether. And initially when I heard it, it sounded like a contradiction, but then I said to myself, no, it isn't, because it is about regulating. We tend to overeat or to undereat, and regulation is the idea. And I've heard before that we actually adjust to our food load. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's important. No, with starches, especially your white starches, please, small portions. Don't eat it hot. I mean, it will. There's nothing wrong with eating starches. Like I said, small portions, cool it down, and you'll see you also eat less when it's cooled down. You can reheat it again and eat it hot again. So those are things that people are not aware of. And we actually do need those maize meal now and then. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your wisdom. Thank you very much for your ever smile. Rev, may I please hand over to you to close for us in prayer? Mama Greta, I acknowledge your presence on the panel. Rev, please, can you close for us in prayer?
Thank you.
Rev seems a little out of connection. Mama Greta, could you do that for us, please? Am I audible? All righty. Right, let us bow heads. Oh, Mama Greta is here. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you, Masibulele. Nkosi namandla onke emdali wezulu nomhlaba, Thixo mhle fanwe imbeko nozuko. Sibulela ubuhle bakho, sibulela inceba zakho. Sibulela Thixo abantwana bakho bachongayo wabanika ulwazi. Bancede impilo zethu, bancede ingqondo zethu Thixo wethu. Bancede ukuphila kwethu. Sibulela Thixo ukusebenzisa kwakho uDr Make, mzali wethu odume ngokulunga. Wachukumisa izazela zethu, wasikhumbuza izinto ezifana uba siyazenza Thixo esingazenziyo. Moya ndini wesisa, sicela wena njengoThixo umane umandisela Thixo ulwazi, umane umandisela ukholo, abe luncedo Thixo, abe blessing to other people. As we thank you for this blessing, mzali wethu odume ngokulunga, we are conscious of those when we discuss nutrition, do not have even the basics zokutya, mzali wethu odume ngokulunga. Make us vehicles to also reach those people, mzali wethu. Senze Thixo wethu kuphela ubu-selfish of throwing away food kukho abantu abakudingayo. Sinika izazela eziphilileyo. Sinika amandla mzali wethu to work on ourselves. Give us the necessary discipline ukuze impilo yethu ilunge iqoqeke. Thixo wethu odume ngokulunga, we ask all these things in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks, Doc. We'll start trying.
Oh, Nkosi yami. Hayi, ndingaphathelolo.